Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. I just want to give the shortest of intros and then turn it over to James. So this is another in this series of what we're calling Colloquies. It's an homage to Gordon Bass's Colloquy of Mobiles, meaning conversations. And we've done these a number of times. Everyone here may be familiar with it. But the idea is that in order to bridge the generational differences, of which there are many, cultural and also habit and media preferences, and so on and so forth, we explicitly ask for, in this case, Jean, representing a student scholar, master student, she'll tell you more about what she's doing. And we center a collaboration in her interests, her worldview, her vocabulary, her passions, really. And my role as the so-called practitioner, these are terrible terms, and everyone objects to saying scholar or practitioner. No, we're kind of both, and we both take off in those roles. But the idea is that it's a collaboration and not a mentorship and not an expert saying what should be done. It's entirely centered in the worldview and interests of the so-called scholar. There is a guide online, which I think you can find, and if not, let me know. We need to get better at our editing and stuff. But this is a brief guide to the ideas, and I'm just giving you the basic outline, and then we need to carry on further. We've done a series of these. We did a dozen of them at the RSD conference last October. We're doing about a handful here now. And also, there's a major NSF grant that I'm proud to be a small part of with the filmmakers who were here a few days ago. It's an NSF grant in the informal STEM learning. You know what STEM learning is, science, technology, and stuff like that. Engineering and math. Informal means non-classroom learning. And the project is a 3-year project to generate media in which, on the Western side, there are these colloquies set up between students and practitioners. And indigenous Native American side, similarly, relationships between so-called scholar students and so-called practitioners. And to make inquiries about these different worldviews and how they think about, hello, artificial intelligence. And to create media, and to use that media to expose each group to the other's worldviews, and ultimately to do PBS hour-long television shows. So this is incredibly interesting. But it's also centered in the same idea of colloquies for transgenerational collaboration. We're very proud of that. It's a $3.5 million NSF grant. First time submitters, and we're this far away from having the final word. It's delayed, but we don't expect any issue. So we're very proud of that, and that's part of this trajectory of developing scaffolding for these kinds of relationships. It's not just a matter of, hey, you get together and talk, what is the nature of what goes on. But that's all you need about that. I'm going to turn it over to Jean, who will run the section today. And the description, I think, that she's written in the program is actually quite wonderful and complete. So, Jean.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this.
Thank you. Just a little bit add on to that.
Please.
Like the session we did last October, we actually started this topic, like tech addiction already. But I believe the sections was like shorter than this, but the conversation was so inspiring, and we can't, like, I just asked Paul, can we do this? Can we continue the discussion? So that's why we're doing this session over here. So yeah, that's the background.
Great.
So first, I'm going to introduce myself. Hi everyone, I'm a master's student studying design at Carnegie Mellon. And I'm personally interested in this topic. I believe somehow this resonates to everyone's daily life, because we kind of like all have smartphones, I saw that. And we must have been spending so much time scrolling through cell phones. So this is basically a session discussing about what seems to be taken for granted and a little bit reflection and to think of like how can new stuff, how can design step in to help us have a balance between these technologies. All right, so just a little bit warm up. As described on Wikipedia, I'm somehow described as Gen Z. It's some like age ranging. If you were born between like 1997 and afterwards, you're defined as Gen Z. Anyone same as me? Maybe not. All right, and another.
Gen no.
Oh, hello. Yeah, and there are like defined. I know this is like label, but it's interesting just to know like which generation you're at. There's also like Generation Y, I believe. Wait, let me look at a cheat sheet. Yeah, millennial. Generation Y is millennial. Yes. Any other people from millennial? Also, there's like Generation X. It's from 1965 to 1980. Generation X. And baby boom. It's from 1946 to 1964. Yes. It's so great to see like different generations sitting in this room because this means it's going to be a great discussion. All right. So to begin with, I think I'm gonna just tell a story about me and my friends about technology. So, in my age, at least for me, and my friends, we got our smartphones, first smartphones around like 15, 14-ish. That is when like iPhone has their first or second generation of their smartphones. And at first, as anyone can recall, it can only do like message, calls, and maybe a little games on the phone, but it's touchscreen based. So we were like, so that's a trendy gadget. Like people will share at school, hey, do you have iPhone? And what games do you play? My mom banned me on playing the phone, etc., etc. And as soon as we enter high school, that is when we have like peer comparison. We will take photos, we will use filters, and we then have social media, our first Facebook account, maybe some Instagram accounts as well, but that's super trendy at that time. And after in college, we find ourselves like social media has gone viral. And so does every other generation. So does every other people around the world is starting to use social media. And we find so many information to get connected with people worldwide with different ages. And we just started to spend more and more time on this. But as soon as I graduated, one friend, she is still dealing with his mental issue, but she just approached me and she said like, hey, I find myself feeling bad because I just can't stop scrolling on Instagram. I see that so many celebrities and all of you guys, it means her friends, all of my friends, they're playing, they're having fun with their friends, they are taking great pictures, they're traveling around, they're having great accomplishment in your life on Instagram. But what I do is basically scrolling, looking at them, and just can't stop looking at short videos or memes, which stands for like it's funny things on the internet. And I feel so bad about it, and I think I'm not as good as anyone else. And I know this is like a chicken and egg problem, like which comes first. Is it the addiction to media, or is it like a mental health issue? It's still on debating, but that definitely, in her case, that exacerbates her depression. That the endless scroll on social media has made her feel bad about that. So I think that is a time that sparkles my interest. Like, hey, people I love have have been captured in social media, and why so? It used to be like a great thing, trendy thing that helps us connect with people online, but it just ends up forwarding this. It must have been done an alternative way. So that's why it sparkles my interest on this topic. And another interesting data that I would like to share with you, it's a research done by Cybernetics in 2023. So it's a poll asking, hey, do you think you're addicted to internet? And people ranging from like 13 to their 24th, about 71 to 73% of people, U.S. citizens, they think they're addicted, and they don't think that's good. And people around 25 to 44, there are 54% to 60% of people feel that they're addicted. And for those who are at their 45 to 64, around 40% feel that they're addicted. And this is so surprising for me, but people more than 65 and above, 44% feel that they're addicted to it. That's even more than people, I believe that's 45 or so. So that's actually a surprising data. It means that although it's not everyone's case, but it's a rising issue, at least in America. So that's an interesting thing. And another thing, I'm not sure whether people know about that, but Paul and I had a discussion on that. It's a book. I believe it becomes a bestseller weeks ago. It's called Anxious Generation. Anyone heard of it? Yes, so it's a book basically about, it's stating using social media and smart gadgets in people's young age will actually rewire children's mind and how they develop their social skills. So it points out this issue, it links social media usage to mental health, and also points out several solutions. But also we talk about we saw some critics on the book. For example, there is no, I think that's linking to cause and correlation. It's a mixture of that based on this data, given data in the book. So some critics just talked about, you can't, there's no evidence on this.
No proof.
No proof on this, yes. You can't say mental health is related to that issue, etc. Yeah. So we had a discussion on that, and we all agreed. We both agreed that that is a discussion on the tech addiction and mental health, but it's research itself, like research or data or comfort, the science can only bring us this far, but that doesn't mean that we should quit dealing with this issue because we don't have proof on that. There's just something that we can do on this issue. Yeah. You want to share?
Sure.
Okay.
So I think we all know what Gene has been setting up one way or another. I see it every day, and we all do when people walk down the streets like this. And one can argue about whether you need a causative explanation before you do anything about it. I know some of our colleagues here have been raising in meetings with ASC and others that children no longer know how to play outside because it is unstructured and because they're used to being told a sequence or a process or being guided in a way that doesn't all happen. So I think what we might do is ask for some other stories or some reflection on what we've done. Is that what's next? Gene has a great outline here. To get some conversation going, we know the acoustics are a little tough. And then we'd like to proceed maybe to some other directions. Noah, please.
Yeah, tell it only as a story.
Please.
So, a couple months ago, I lived in San Francisco at the corner of Sacramento and Powell Street. And I was standing on that corner waiting for the bus, number 1 bus. And there were 3 young women, Gen Z sorts, all looking at their phones.
Yes.
And they seemed to be somewhat animated about it. So I said to them, can I help? And they said, yeah, we're trying to figure out how to get to Sacramento. I thought they meant the city of Sacramento. So I said, do you want to drive or take a bus? And he said, oh, no, we want to get to Sacramento Street. So what I did was this, which was to point at a sign that's this long in big letters that says Sacramento.
Beautiful.
They looked at it and said, oh, thank you.
Back to that.
Yeah, so I said, let that go for a while. That didn't calm the waves. I said, anything else I can help with? I said, yes, we're looking for the 1. I said, you need 1 bus? I said, yeah, 1 bus. And then I did this, was to point at the same lamppost, which has a big sign on it in yellow, like every bus stop in the town, that says, bus stop 1. And I pointed at it. I said, oh, thank you. They did this a little bit, and then one of them came over and took a picture of a sign that says, that's the story.
It's a wonderful
The
story.
question is, what's going on?
It's a wonderful and terrifying story.
I can totally resonate. Sorry. If you come. Like me myself, I was bad. Like I'm so bad at direction. So yeah, but that's a really interesting story because whenever I walk on the street, that's a bad thing. But whenever I walk on the streets, I'll have my phone with me because I need Google Maps real-time navigating to help me like walk through the streets. And sometimes that happens to me. Like the sign's actually on top of me, but I just believe in this little gadget more than the real world. Yeah, but that's dangerous in some cases. So I can totally resonate.
Sorry.
Do you have any idea why the one woman took a picture of a bus stop sign?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Because they're engaged.
I have a guess, my guess is that made it real for her.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. That that's the way to participate. We want to be careful not to lose too much time, and some quick stories would be great.
Well, I just wanted to say, probably because photos are geolocated, and so if you take a photo, you have exact geolocation coordinates, exactly where that sign is. So not only do you get the GPS coordinates, but you also just have a visual of the sign.
Great, so you get back to where you were. That's
Exactly.
very pragmatic, but I also had no sense that the participation is through the pixels. And as I'm fond of saying more and more, don't trust the pixels. Laura, did you have a quick comment?
Quick comment, yes, quick. I've been thinking about that, the big screen versus the small screen and context, that the big screen is gone. Like I can't use Google, I do use Google Maps, but I have to know the bigger picture where I'm going. I can't just say turn left, turn right, and so forth. And I feel like that big screen, like going outside and playing a big screen, you know what I mean, the world, nature, you know, whatever, and it's sacrificed to the small screen. You know, even watching TV in my family, my mother was 86, you know, it's on her little screen, well, there's a big screen TV. So, anyway.
Dave, quick?
Yeah, Danny Kahneman reflects on, when he was reflecting on his intellectual divorce from Amos Tversky. Well, Tversky is still alive.
You're deep in the weeds.
Oh, yeah.
Already.
Okay, well, the notion was one of the reasons why people miss somebody they're separated from is that they've actually delegated decision-making to that person. Now, in bringing that into the constantly connected thing, in traditional system science, the idea would be, well, there's an externalization of part of you, and now you're having to bring that piece of your decision-making inside and run it here. But if you use conversation theory, it's a matter that there's a psychological individual which had been existing in the context of a dialogue between organisms that's now suspended. So it's actually died, so no wonder it feels like a best friend died when your cell phone battery runs down.
So you're saying that the personalities that used to be activated by you have been delegated to something else. Is that what you meant?
Formerly someone else and now something else, with now the era of dreams, when you don't need organisms for your psychological entities to act.
Quickly? Something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, Chalmers talks about this in Extended Mind from, like, 99? David Chalmers talks about the extended mind, about the idea that our mind, it sort of goes into the mind, and we don't have to go there. But, philosophy of mind, but, like, our mind isn't really here. It's distributed, yeah.
Yeah.
Including our phones, but not just our phones.
We have stories that we've established the ground. Let's keep going and let's make sure we have time to talk about consequences of design for tech.
Yeah, I think that's a great start. So you mentioned what has technology have effects on us, what's the consequences? And we just talk about some pros and cons. And I have another viewpoint of that. Like for me, I know we are kind of like, our mind is separated on different platforms. But on the other hand, that's a way of like we have more chance to express ourselves, more channels to gather information from our friends, although they're separate from me. And that's just like two sides of a coin. I believe like somehow it frees us, but on the other side, it brings us more sometimes pressure because like so many information is coming in at the same time. And I have different personalities on different platforms. Like there was also a meme. There was a funny image talking like on Facebook you have your profile like this, on LinkedIn you have your profile like this, and on Instagram you have a profile like this. So and also you have different profiles for Tinder, like the dating app, etc. So you have different personalities, you do so many different things on the internet, but is that truly yourself, or is it something you want to become, or acting because like that platform you want to? Yeah, so that's an interesting thing to bring up.
Let me say something to that is that we tend to talk about these things as consequences, but these are designed. This was designed by the people behind those platforms. They are tapping into like very core human needs that are around like being seen by others, being liked by others, and they're like exploiting those. It's not like, oh, it happened. This is like this has been known for a while, and this is their business model basically. And their algorithms are also making that worse, and with the AI it's going to get worse. So it's not like just consequences.
I agree completely. And I think there are two classes of design intention there. One is, let's do the likes, let's count the number, let's promote, let's create buzz around activity. And then there's the stuff of the recommendation algorithms, which are based on the idea of anything it can do to increase time on screen, engagement. It doesn't matter what my motivation is for spending more time, but the algorithm knows that I'm spending more time and therefore it maximizes that. And that's what taps into the emotional, the limbic. Fear, lies, and outrage attracts more engagement, and that's why polarization is a
I wanted to just bring that up because you can look at that as something positive, like, oh, we have personas and we are extending our
Yeah.
we have more opportunities to express ourselves and democracy and access. That's how they also play in that card. But you can look at something good, and it's supposed to be attractive, and you can also look at it from the other way. But they are using those good things for people to kind of get them,
Well, that's part of the design challenge, isn't it? How do we unpack the good and the mechanisms such that they're not subverted, or they're less subverted into whatever? But I don't want to get ahead of it.
Yeah, just a quick add-on to that. Like, I think I missed in the intro that I used to work shortly as business consultant. So, and I also have an undergrad in business. So I know that it's so complicated. Like in design, I can tell people will set their goals of design to be how can I stick our users, how can I maximum our user engagement on the platform. That's a design goal. So designers execute. They want to achieve that goal, so they come up with like endless scroll. Means that the page is automatically refreshed as you scroll down, or like pull down, it's refreshed. And also the notification, like although you put down your phone, but your notification on Facebook, hey, your friend just posted one post. That's all some little designs that that users get back to the platform. That's the design mind. But in business side, you can tell that like Wall Street, they're looking for revenue. So for tech companies or digital platform companies, they have the pressure from the top that they shall make money out of these digital platforms. So this is like
These are all
a
givens.
complicated issue.
These are givens. What do we do?
Yes, but me personally, like, although this is so complicated, it is so wicked problem, I would say, but I believe, like, there are some intersections between. I'm not sure where it is right now, but that's why we're holding this conversation. But I believe, like, there are definitely other ways to find balance between this business and design and the users.
Like
Yeah.
what?
You may be like against me, but
No.
I see new stuff coming in, like artificial intelligence, and also I believe we talk about like big screens in the world and small screens, and that kind of reminds me of like virtual reality or augmented reality. Yes, so I'm gonna talk about AI first, like artificial intelligence. So that's relatively, like it's been a while already, but recently it went viral because of ChatGPT. So the public has more awareness of what is AI, why it is good, and how can we use that. And I think of the word personalization. So, for example, if I'm scrolling on social media or I'm having some interaction with my friends online, what if we can like spark meaningful conversation? It can give me like more personalized content or ad that can guide me directly to buy what I need rather than just scrolling for hours, but not finding my favorite, just what ifs. And that's the idea for AI. And for XR, like for extended reality, what if like we put our, let's say in the far future, we no longer look at this little screen, but everything we need, the information we need is personalized and picked, and you can view the big screen, the real world, but at the same time you need your directions. So for example, that direction. What if I open Google Maps? I have my glasses on my face, and I need to find bus 1. Oh, there's an arrow pointer. It's over there. I can see the real thing, but also have the information of what I need. And I can click a button to capture a photo of it. It's actually came out already. I believe it's a AR glasses that Meta and Ray-Ban, a sunglass brand, they collaborate together. There's a sunglass, AR sunglass. You can take photos. You can call their AI assistant out to ask for direction, etc. So I'm just imagining, like, what if these new technologies can bring us both business revenues, but also we are designing ahead and aware of the addiction issue. Just some ideas. What are your thoughts?
11 first, because
I wondered if there's any connection with research on gambling. I did a integration at the University of Windsor on problem gambling in the elderly. But they were concerned about problem gambling as a whole, and these were slot machines primarily. And one of the things that they were recommending legislation on is a time break after, say, 4 hours, because people would literally stay there for 12 hours. By the way, no gambling venues were willing to send a representative, although they were invited.
Sure. So, Tristan Harris, who's a figure now in Silicon Valley, and has started the Center for Humane Technology. He early on was talking about the slot machine in your pocket, because he described how the mechanisms of gambling attracting you, keeping you addicted, random positive reinforcement. Famously, Facebook initially, when it gave notifications, it started doing them every hour. And that wasn't random, and it's better if they're random because then you don't know what's going to happen, and then it happens and all this stuff going on. So there is some research in that area.
There is this book, Addiction by Design, of Natasha Schultz that came to that show that talks about she studied, she's an ethnographer, Addiction by Design. Addiction by Design, that's another great reference. So there is some of that. She studied
The other factor there is some medications people take make them more prone to addiction.
Yes, but it's all about activating this emotional limbic, all kinds of things. In the back.
One thing that's interesting in development work, there's one talk about what do you need to have happen, what do you want to have happen, and what would you love to have happen. And often we get caught in needs on everything. So what happens is, it takes longer to think about what you want, and if everything gets lumped under need, or gets moved into need, so as opposed to like finding something where, what would we like to have happen, what would we love to have happen takes time to synthesize, but we're reacting to the need for information, right? And the need for a like, and that starts to, like with non-violent communication, they talk about your base needs, like security, stability, belonging. So suddenly, if the like isn't really meeting something you want to love, it's not really a like, it's a metric, it becomes a need. And I think that actually one of the problems you find in a lot of cases, everyone says do needs assessment on communities to meet their needs, but actually you have to know what the needs are. The question is, and that actually is just to help the person who's push down on people that are lower down, just really easy, but how do you get the people at the bottom to actually express those deeper, meaningful aspects?
Wonderful comment. There's also the issue that you were speaking of, Gene, which is, can we make these algorithms do what we would prefer them to do rather than what they do now to maximize? And this gets into, I think, what you're talking about. Ray, did you have a comment?
I was just going to respond. To address the question of needs for people who've never been asked that question and don't even know what their needs may be, it requires a long period of relationship building and a very active process of listening and exploring. That's the only way you can do it.
There's a dissociation between hemispheres that works quite well if you're holding the cell phone in front of your nose and walking. The right brain is doing a pretty good job of tracking these diffuse, non-self-created environmental images at the same time that the left brain is, in right-handers, is working with this. And the problems with augmented reality are likely quite a bit different, and in some ways maybe less damaging.
Can we talk about that a little bit? Who's tried AR or VR headsets? Many of you. Right. I tried the Vision Pro briefly at an Apple store. But by the way, whenever I walk by the Apple store now, it's not far from me. No one is trying the demo. Which is curious to me. I would have thought there would be lines for many months. Can you say a little more about why you think AR, VR is valuable? You made a comment about something there. My worry, because when I tried it, I was not in the room anymore. And the people who were around me said, "Oh, Paul, you disappeared when you put that headset on." So can you say a little more about why you think it's a particularly valuable technology for what you want?
I was thinking about AR.
AR,
AR is to add on the information we need, like only the necessary information we need on the screen, and it adds on to the actual object. And in that case, like we talked about issues on what happens on social media, there's some noises, or there's some other stuff that maybe that's not what I needed. But when we think about, like, when we make something as our design goals, when we make, how do we design based on what people need, but not too distracting on the AR gadget. When we put that as our goal, I believe, in a positive way, that we can, like, technology is supposed to be a companion, supposed to be an optimistic thing that balances you and helps you live a better life. I think if we set that goal as that in that way, but not like how we stick users in the social media as long as they can. If that's the case, I believe AR has the potential to make this happen. That's my positive side of thinking.
I just want to talk about something about what I'm doing now. And so my own project, I also a part is to design the AR or VR that is for the older people because for now I thought my grandparents they can now use the VR mobile phone everywhere. So I think because they are not living with me, so if they want to connect with me and they are using mobile phone, my face is not good where it is. So I think if we can create some VR or AR for them, they can to make the long distance to communication with the people who have a long distance with you. I think it's a good way. But I'm thinking camera is like the camera. The camera can know what's the emotion and what's the mind in your thinking, not wear the glass or some machine on your head for the other people. And not be I'm not sure can use the camera in the future, not wear something on the head.
Yeah, maybe. I was thinking glasses. It's like the easiest way, and like people can wear glasses rather than daily use or for decorations.
If it wear glasses will be uncomfortable for the other person, yeah, I'm thinking that.
It's a wonderful comment, thank you. I always have a concern for an expectation that the machine will know what we want. Great.
Yeah, I just sort of wanted to sort of add on to that. That was a great segue because I think if we're talking about transgenerational contexts, like we don't think of older people, especially boomers, using technology. But I think, you know, as you notice, like the 45% who are addicted. I think sort of what I won't say this is the real problem, because there's obviously lots of problems, but there is a wicked problem around social isolation among people as they get older. I know, for instance, my dad, who is 75, speaking of slot machines, he loves his iPad, and he has these iPad games, and he was paying, I found out he was paying like $300 a month to play these games because, yeah, seriously. And that's very common. That's actually not uncommon.
Really?
And he would not go to a casino and do the same thing. But it's the same. It's literally the same thing. It's literally the same mechanism in the brain. It's exactly. I looked at this thing. Like I looked at the afternoons and I'm like, oh my god, there's so many shiny things in class. And I think he also has ADHD too. It probably helps. But I think we need to think about the social isolation, which I think actually happens at both ends of the spectrum, but I can only speak towards the experience of my father, for instance, of just that isolation, which I also think is also driving some of ours with the other problems we have around political, we don't go there, but you know what I mean.
I just want to have a quick comment. Like, I know that in the AR thing, like the emergence technology thing, that's only one part of the solution.
Right.
Like a lot of different things should be made, like the policy side, the educational side. And there's a quick fact that actually there is some research show that someone suggesting tech addiction somehow can be related to alcohol addiction. Like people have been, like some therapists has been using the 12
steps.
12 steps of how do you combat alcohol addiction and tech addiction. So there are so many different other solutions that can be made, and yeah, maybe like these are all about designs, but they're like in different fields. But that's also something to consider about.
Just one thing on the, we also talk in addiction about healthy ecosystems. So one of the challenges I think with gambling, because I had a friend who was gambling a lot, and the big thing is when they can tell you they've had a win. So if they was coming, oh, I won, it was actually like, he was doing it on the market, it's the same thing, that they sort of, I won $5,000 and I'm going to buy one drink, you know, and it can be, I think these other, you know, there's something in it where even alcohol, to some extent, makes you more social, then suddenly you're this person, so you, this remembering yourself being social, even outside of, this is outside of screens, right? But then the same sort of mechanism comes back in the screens, where it's somehow giving you a social hit, but you can't see the person, but it's implicit, right? The likes, it's implicit, but there's people out there in this ecosystem that like you, but like I say, that it becomes a need, not a like in the way that we think of it.
I have a question for you about the AR. When you use your glasses, how would you feel in a room where everyone is seeing a different reality than you? And not only from being distracted by maybe even looking at you but not looking at you, but potentially, you know, seeing you in a different way, or because we're not talking about AR right now only as floating icons, but also we can, with special computing, I can look at this room and I can see you as an avatar, right? So, or I can make it invisible. So, how do you think about the social aspects of that future that you want?
Does this make a difference?
I mean, it is weird to see someone with glasses on inside. Someone that's not inside, right?
Yes, but actually, some of my peers actually did this project, like having AR as a tool to add linking connections. And after doing user testing for them, my conclusion is that it's awkward. Like, if you know everyone's having the glasses and you can see the data that pops up on the people just right in front of you, I think that's kind of like awkward for me. So my hypo is like maybe in the future, if these glasses are developed, maybe that's gonna be like a social norm to simply take your glasses down, like when you're talking with someone, like take your hat down, take your AR glasses down, take your sunglasses down. That's just my hypo.
Why put another thing in front of you when the cues that a million years of evolution has brought you can come up to the light? Jose, you wanted to say something?
Just to add something to this discussion, because the idea of alienation from space, because I think one of the, for me, the most scary things about this VR or XR is that actually they alienate you from the space and from the event. So, and I think one of the most important thing is actually clearly sharing a lot of information that is processed in different ways when we are in the same room. What's different from taking this conversation into Zoom is actually we are kind of accomplishing the same crime that is this event here. So, and there is a lot of information, not only in terms of location of people, location of things that are actually specialized, but also very subtle aspects of the experience that we share and that are unspoken, and we don't have to explain or to tell people to send message like you do in Zoom and those things, saying, oh, you send an emotion, an emoticon or whatever. So I think that's for me is the most difficult part of going into this new technology. I think we are already using all the time, and we have these several layers with our phones. Even for the same place here, I'm checking the program, I'm checking the location, I'm seeing what's around. It's we are living a different level of reality, but I think we need to bring it back into space in a way, to share that those very subtle aspects of the physical place, the physical world. And I think for me, that's the challenge for this technology. It's like when Apple shows your eyes in front of the glass, trying to make you share something with the other person, but it's still...
It's freaky. Do you want to look maybe to this? That's where we want to go, because we only have 10 or 15 minutes left. We'd like to move on, forgive us for going to get to the last segment.
Yeah, I think we touched on something, like the last second is how can design take place in this topic. Like, a quick comment on that. I think that's really exciting when you say about like having space, but think about space and these new technology. How can we add human needs? How can we add this topic and also consider space, the connection with real people and the relationship with the guidance? How can we put them all together and design a future?
And Jose, who was starting there, and other comments from Danielle, et cetera, heading in that direction. So can we think about what Jean just said? What do we do as designers?
Context. This thing is very dumb. It doesn't really recognize the fact that I'm in different contexts. Now, they're building that in, and Apple Intelligence is going to help with that. It at least has sleep mode and drive mode, which is nice. Where we'll figure out that you're driving and then enroll in notifications. But it doesn't really respond to the context that I'm in.
So can you be specific?
Yeah. So for instance, the default experience is all of the apps that I have on my home screen, they stay the same, right? I get the same notifications if I don't say touch messages, which I actually do, but most of it don't do that. Throughout the day, right? Doesn't matter. I'll Facebook notification at 10, even though I'm at work. Versus like when I'm at work, I might want my email, not my Facebook notifications, for instance. So you can imagine these things, and Apple's starting to build this in with focus modes, but and again, there's some versions for Android, where this thing actually changes depending on the context and depending on my needs and the needs that I communicate towards it as well. And I think maybe AI can play a little bit of a role there, but I want to be real careful because I think it's actually important to be explicitly contextual and say, no, I'm at work now, so I want you to behave a certain way. I don't want, like, I actually disable apps at night, like in sleep mode, right? My phone becomes a dumb phone. And it actually even changes, I don't know how to do it. It even changes to a red screen, so I don't see the red. Anyway, you get the point. Like, these things can actually adapt to our surroundings and adapt to like our current
I love everything you're saying.
Yeah.
And I think the devil's in the details.
It is.
And working bottom up from what its functions are is one way to go, and you can program it that way. It's a bit like my comment last night, arriving and looking at AI. It's all about, oh, we've got these zeros and ones, what can we do? Rather than what's our intention.
Right.
And what is context for the moment. It's not only what app I might need, it's what is the intention of the app. And that is my higher level interest in context and surveillance and so on. Yes. I want to make sure others come in, but please.
I think also looking at that, there's a lot of stuff with hybridity and actually having that sense-making rooms. Because it's sometimes we've ended up going down and down and down, so everyone's got an individual thing. When, 30, 50 years ago, you go to the cinema, right? And then it became everyone had television at home, and it's gone down to each one's got a screen on them all the time. And what if you could be talking to people in different places and they could see us, you have multiple cameras, you have a different sense of how you could communicate across space so that you're you know, you're scaling up, and then you have dedicated space, like a karaoke room, you go to karaoke cafes, right? Something like that.
Can I ask a question? So what would we study in order to do that well?
Cybernetics.
Because I think that's the problem. Because the way the studies are done now, again, tend to be grounded in what the tech does. I'm a company, I have these apps, these are the functions I can do. I'm going to work from those rather than the other way around. And I feel that Cybernetics does afford a way of starting top down, not in a hierarchical sense, but who are we, what do we want? Rather than this is what I can do with the zeros and the ones.
I think the problem is not exactly what we are studying, but the questions we are asking.
Questions are a great reframe. Thank you. Yes, I like that.
The questions, for example, looking the reasons why, going back to the previous topic, why addiction takes place. Because, for example, if we use it, I'm not talking about only the glasses, but even a medicine, they wouldn't really cure or transform the reason why. And in the aftermath of using it, we might be addicted to the possible solutions we are giving. So I think the big challenge for every one of us here is to ask the questions why something happens inside us and in our bodies, in our minds, and in our emotions that somehow connects us or makes us feel addicted.
Okay, but go back to the conversation before, because I feel like there's not much you can do from the design perspective. I feel it's a business model that promotes designers to propose solutions that involve that, so those incentives. So what would be a type of business model that will promote a different model for engaging technology? Because right now, the main goal is, as you said, for people to spend more and more time in your device. And even, for example, I hate when they do the double camera and the selfies. It's like the worst thing that I find it so degrading. And maybe I'm from a different generation, but I've never taken a selfie. I feel it's like, I feel like I really did. Whatever, we can talk about it. But that idea of like putting that camera and like making those hardware advancements, you know, it works because the selfie created a whole, you know, ecosystem or adding content, and you know, it worked with people like wanting to spend more time on those platforms, on those devices. So I don't think that the solution of the selfie or those ideas came out of necessarily of trying to solve a problem to design, but rather promoting more ways to achieve that goal of keeping people engaged and using those platforms. So that's why I'm sorry.
We're almost running over. I wanted to make sure, Jean, you had a couple of minutes to close.
Yes. For closing, one thought just popped up based on the question, the comments, the inspiration. Like, we've been talking about designing a new technology, but actually design spans more than that, like the physical interaction with the world. For example, I just went to a getaway cabin. It's nothing related to technology. It's just a cabin noise. And there's a box which allows you to put your phone inside. And there are design games printed in papers, like you can look at the stars with your friends. There are like some prompts that you can have deep talks with your family. There are some steps where you do make s'mores, etc., how to set up a campfire. It's all paperwork. So I know we've been talking about technology today, but the time constraints, like there are so many things to be explored around how can we, like based on needs, based on we want a social interaction with your friends, based on technology we have right now, but also the real world, something that's more than just a screen, I believe. Sorry to bring out this, it's another big topic, but yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's great. Shall we end on time, or is anything burning that someone would like to say? We have a short coffee break to have that. Brett, please.
Yes, I mean, I think this also brings up the question of can we use the master's tools to unbuild the master's house?
Unbuild the master's house.
Yeah, the outer door for it, sorry, I got it wrong, but, which is something to think about, right? Because we have an agency into how these things are made. It's just true. Apple has a lot more power than I do as a software engineer. I mean, I can build stuff on it, but like, ultimately, Apple has a say. So.
Great time. So we end there. Thank you so much.